Oh, no. And we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hangin and Sangin. I'm Kelly McCartney from the Bluegrass Situation. With me today at Hillbilly Central, the Orphan Brigade. Ben Glover, Nielsen Hubbard, Josh Britt. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Repeat visitor,
Yes, I'm extra lucky
friend of show, we
and
like to call you.
delighted to be so.
Okay, good. Let's give, since people may know you guys individually, or may not. Let's
Probably
you
not.
know,
Let's be
let's
honest.
50-50, yeah. But let's give a little bit of background. This project. What was the first collaboration that you guys did?
Well, I guess it's pre-Orphan Brigade.
Yeah.
Our original connection is really via Nielsen here.
Right.
So Nielsen Hubbard, producer extraordinaire.
True.
I'm actually in the midst of making my 8th record with him. So we've been making records for a long time. Josh here, his old band, the Farewell Drifters, made records with Nielsen, and that was my original connection with these
Right.
guys.
So you brought it, and what made you think, oh, this would be a good little gathering?
Well, the first thing that happened was the power went out in House of David when we were working on Josh's record.
That
That
And we-
feels auspicious for this particular
Yeah.
band.
I know. Well, it did. It went out, and for some reason, we all started talking ghost stories. And Josh was like, "Hey, my uncle's got this place that is really haunted. We should go up there sometime." So we did, and I think we went 1 year and went like another year, just kind of just as for fun. And then that's what started the whole thing of like, "Wow, this place is crazy. Let's, like, what would it be? Would your uncle let us like record something in here and
Right.
start exploring that idea?" And then that's when I was like, "Hey, man, like we should get Ben." And then,
Yeah, 'cause,
this
like,
is kind of
who's the darkest
Yeah.
songwriter guy I know? Ben.
yeah.
I thought it was for my humour and wit, but evidently not.
No.
That's
Right.
where we met, was at the house with Ben. Me and
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, so
Met
Oh,
him.
you met up there at
Yeah.
Alfred Hall.
He came and played a song, and
Okay.
in the Farewell Drifters played, and that was the first thing we did there, was record Pez Lamentation.
Okay.
Played there.
Yeah, so the first time we were up in the house, it was really just to see if the place was a cool place to record in.
Okay.
And when we figured that out, we thought, well, let's explore it further and write songs in the house.
Right.
And that became the first album,
Soundtrack to a
a
Ghost
Ghost
Story.
Story.
Right. And now the new album, Heart of the Cave. You guys got an invitation from this little town in Italy, Osimo. And do you feel like these places summon you to them? In some sort of way?
I mean, I think so. I mean, we talked about it. After making that first record, I mean, we're all doing such different things. Ben's doing
Yeah.
his own solo career, which is doing well, and then he had been in bands. Like, I'm a producer now. We have a film company together, and it's
Yeah.
like we're all doing separate stuff. So that first record felt in a weird way like just this project of friends doing something.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really, or we had talked about that. How do we really go back and make another thing?
Yeah.
And then when we went over to Italy and we saw the cave, I mean, we walked in and it was immediate.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, wait a minute, there's something, there's another story here. And
Yeah.
then it was like, oh, I guess we're a band now. Like,
Yeah.
or make a second record, you know,
Yeah.
so.
And the story is, for those who don't know, so you guys went to Italy, get to Osimo, and the town invited you to come and explore these ancient caves under the city and make a record there. And oh, you did.
It was kind of our idea to make the record. I think it was like we were there. Somebody just wanted to show us these places. We were actually in
Okay.
a place called Riccanati nearby, and we went to Osimo, and we met this lady who was sort of the historian,
Right.
and it kind of had the same feeling as the first place,
Right.
where we walked in, and it just felt like something that, I really connected with all the stories. I feel like they did too, and just the way it felt there. There was this like heaviness and it was in this place that was so unique and so different than what I think about. Let's make a record.
Yeah.
So it kind of
Let's crawl into the belly of the earth.
Yeah, I feel like that's what
and
we
write some songs.
That's what the three of us do well, apparently, together. I mean, that was the fun of the first thing. Is like this not caring about it being a normal record. Let's just make this thing.
Yeah.
And
let's tell these stories.
Who cares if it's ever heard? And then by that approach, it, for me personally, it was one of the most, in terms of people liking it, people seemed to really like it, and we made a film. The film that we made was us learning how to do video production. So literally, it's my job now.
Yeah.
Like my whole life, we always talk about it's like our whole life is defined by that, just doing this.
Well, the actress that was in our video is I'm married to
now. His
So,
wife.
and I have a child with.
Yeah.
The house is responsible for
Boy,
all
Octagon
of our,
Hall really.
Well, the power of that record
paid you back.
in our whole life.
Yeah.
It sort of demands doing it again. It felt
right,
and so we did that. That was kind of why when we were there, it was like it felt right. Like we were just we were on this tour where we were just playing the old songs, and it was like what we're really good at is doing this. This is the wildest place I've ever seen. Why don't we just do this here? And we kind of talked her into it, really, or them into it. So,
then we approached our agent over there,
idea.
approached the town, and to see if they'd be into hosting us for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the town were incredible hosts, and so that's how it happened. And then spirits collide, and the muse is kind, and you end up with this project at the end of it.
Yeah, and you guys are all sort of mystics in your own various ways. I feel like just knowing you, I actually feel like most musicians have a little bit of the wild mystic in them. Yeah. So then this record is just full of that. Like it just overflows with those sorts of themes. And you start out, as you do, with death, of course, because it's not only the great leveler, it's because we're all up against that, but it's also a great motivator for figuring out what this life is meant to be, how we're meant to spend our time and what's coming next. So as you guys were kind of exploring those caves, what was the sense you got? And as you were telling these stories, do you feel like we're getting closer to those truths or further from them, sort of based on what you learned about that time and what was going on with the Knights Templar and all of those folks?
I think for me, you realize that there's been people on this, I hate to use the word journey, but searchers.
Yeah.
Since there were humans on this planet, there has been searchers. Be it, mystics, be it Templar Knights, be it Masons, be it poets. And that area of Italy always seemed to attract those kind of people. Mm-hmm. So it has a real history of mysticism and secret societies. And for me, I kind of just felt empowered because I just felt like following a tradition of these seekers who were in that part of the world. And it kind of really affirmed for me that, well, maybe I'm not crazy, guys have gone before us trying to search for the same truths. And I think that's, because they all left their mark in that part of the world. You're in these tunnels and there's symbols on the wall that have been there for 1,500 years that we don't know exactly what they are. So it's kind of like us leaving our mark with the album and with the music. Those guys left their mark with their symbols and their churches and their amazing buildings. So in a little way, we're kind of leaving our little mark. And it could be Osimo, it could be Italy, it could be Kentucky, it could be somewhere in Ireland, but the things you're searching for are still the same thing. Yeah. It's still the same, it's just a different context. I mean, if that's what you guys felt.
No, I mean, I think that even we talked about some of that same stuff thematically in the first record, even in Kentucky, because I think it's the search itself is what kind of binds us all together. Yeah. Because I think I left even on the first record, it's like all that thing is like, are there ghosts? Are there, is this, I don't know. I saw more stuff than I've ever seen. I've heard more stuff, but I don't know in the end, I don't know if I have reached an absolute certainty of what I think it was. It's just, I think it's the journey.
Yeah.
I think that's got to be enough.
Yeah.
And I think that both those things put you on that path. And I think that's what binds us, like, as people. And I think, with where we are in the world right now, I'd love to see us, all try to find ways to be more connected and not be so absolute in everything, or like, oh no, this is the way, it's
Right.
just like,
Live in the gray areas.
yeah, live in the journey together.
Yeah.
Because we're all
Yeah.
really trying to do that.
Yeah. And so many of the songs on the record sort of speak to different, coming at that journey from different angles, whether it's, the search for physical healing and pain is gone, or and like Vitriol is one of my favorite songs, and although you spell it with the letters with period, so I don't know if it's actually called Vitriol or if it's Vitriol.
No, it's Vitriol.
Okay.
With the dots.
Okay, just to complicate things. But like that song in particular is about the journey, and it makes it clear. It's like, if you're self-aware, you gotta do it, and once you start, you can't go back, and you don't want to go back, no matter how hard it is. So, like, how are you finding? It reminded me of the Maya Angelou quote of the price is high, but the reward is great. How is this? You talked about the last record, sort of, you got a wife and all this stuff. So how have these songs impacted you? How are you living them out now, a year later? I mean, I know the record's just coming out, but
the first album, I feel like these projects for me are about basically heading face on into things that I'm afraid to talk about in my own life, or uncomfortable. Like, I feel really uncomfortable in the modern world. I feel very afraid of everyone,
right.
And I'm full of fear and don't really relate to many people. And these two guys, are very different than me. We got an Irish perspective over here. The guy, he's very a different kind of songwriter, but I love his writing, and Nilsson's one of my best friends in the world. But being able to talk about these, talking to him in the first record about being from the South, because it was about ghosts, but it was also about I'm from the South. I'm on this place of Franklin, Kentucky is on the border of the North and the South in the war, and so those is crazy, just darkness, and it's either you don't talk about it, or just talk about it from one perspective only, and it's just hard for my family comes from there. It's like taking on my own life with that first thing, and I felt like it helped me understand my perspective more writing about it.
Yeah.
And with this album for me is sort of the same when it comes to belief in what is truth. Mm-hmm. Vitriol is an example of having to leave people behind that because you're just not who they want you to be.
Right.
And having to say,
or they're not who you need them to be.
Yeah. Right. And being okay that in the other case, that I can't go back to trying to be that thing anymore.
Yeah.
Once you've seen the truth, and so it's helped me kind of not I'm not acting any different, but I feel like I can look back at some of the choices that I've made in life that I felt really bad about for reasons I didn't understand them, and be like, okay, that's how I did that, or acted that way. And other people's reaction, Pain Is Gone is an example of something someone else did that always was really unfair for me to be mean, have dark thoughts towards them, and I was able to understand them by writing about just wanting your pain to go away.
Right.
It doesn't matter that you're looking for a faith healing or something. It's you just want pain to go away. We all universally want that.
Yeah.
We all universally want to be free of pain and to not just be a pile of bones. That's what this whole thing is to me about. It's made me be okay with that more, I think.
Because you are going to be a pile of bones at the end.
Yeah.
But it's what you do between here and there. And, for those of us who believe that there is a fire within us that doesn't ever go out, even after we're a pile of bones. That goes on to do whatever it does. So it's like you got to set yourself up for that next thing too.
Yeah,
I think.
Relating to this album, what it's taught me, what it's given me, is that at the end of it all, there is hope, and you have to believe in that hope. You have to believe in that fire.
Yeah.
And I think writing the new record and experiencing those songs, it's given me like a universal sense of hope. And as Josh said as well, for some reason these projects have made us address a lot of our fears.
Sure.
The first album, it was in a really weird house, where, and if we say the word haunted, a lot of people would be skeptical about that, but it's a bizarre house with strange things happen in that house, and to be up there at night when things are odd, you have to either sit there and embrace that and not run away from it. And in Italy, a few things happened as well. We had earthquakes,
right,
and we had the option of leaving the town because we had 3 earthquakes. So weirdly, during the creative process of making these records, we actually literally had to address some serious fears. There always seems to be one thing on the record that when we're making the record, we have to stand face to face with that fear, with that monster.
Yeah.
And thankfully, so far, we've stood toe to toe with it. And I'm not sure who won, but at least we came away with a record on both occasions.
Yeah, I'd say at least even.
Yeah.
Probably at this point.
You
even.
know.
Yeah.
But the other theme that I love is the seeker thing, and you touched on it earlier about the connection. Like, we're all looking for that connection, for our place, for home. And like Town of 100 Churches is kind of speaks to that in terms of, on the surface, we can look for it in the outside world, in these churches or in these other external parts of life. But really, it's in here that we got to find it. So I don't know. I love that you kind of equate that song to Nashville as well.
Yeah. I mean, something about that. The reason when we wrote this song, so this historian would just we'd go into a cave, and there's a bunch of they're all very different from each other.
Yeah.
And she was telling us this amazing story about the town and how it was founded, and people followed a bird to get to this place, and believing that was like some
sign from God.
God, and you come to this.
It was.
Yeah, right. I know because God told me.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those, it's like that kind of stuff where, what is a miracle, or what is, you have this belief that starts a whole town and runs a whole civilization based on this bird.
The bird.
And then you have this town full of like these gigantic cathedrals and things. I've never seen anything that beautiful. I mean, I've never been before Italy. I've never been to Europe and seen the whole European church vibe.
Right.
Nothing like the Kentucky church vibe that I grew up with. Like the complete opposite. Yeah, I had church.
And nothing
I went
quite
to
like
church
the
in a
super
junkyard.
churches around
Yeah,
here.
right. I literally met in a junkyard when I was a kid with my dad's church. But it was like, so it was such a amazing thing.
Yeah.
As a guy, God, belief in God was like my whole life, and you see this thing and it's like, wow, and they're all empty. And they're all, what you're saying is like, you had to find whether you're in those Catholic churches or, I don't know anything much about that part of it, but it's like, whether you're there or not, you still believe that you have to find it inside. That's what the Knights Templar guys were all searching for.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember when I came to Nashville, when I first got here, I can't remember what it was. Somebody said something like, "This is a town of 1,000 churches," or something like that. That was like some statement somebody made.
Right.
And so she said that in her thing about Osmo, this is called the town of 100 churches. And I was like, it's
ding,
it's
ding.
exactly Nashville.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
About my home.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Okay, well, let's have you guys do the song so the people. Let's pull the people into this thing. Let them know where we're headed.
Where we're heading.
Where we're going with all of this.
Literally, where we're heading with this
Exactly.
song. Okay, so this is the opening song on the album, and this is called Pile of Bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving no more. All this earth's gonna blow away. All this house gonna blow away. All we got gonna blow away. We ain't nothing but bones. All this love's gonna blow away. All this joy gonna blow away. All we know is gonna blow away. We ain't nothing but bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving no more. All this hurt's gonna blow away. All this pain's gonna blow away. All we lost gonna blow away. We ain't nothing but bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving no more. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving but a pile of bones. We ain't leaving no more.
Yeah, we are. Or we aren't. Or we ain't. Something in there. We
Yeah.
ain't. We ain't leaving, but yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Hopefully.
Shout out to our friends in Osimo who are tuned in.
Hey,
So Simona and Bruno. Simona is our guide
She was the tour guide,
historian.
yeah.
She was the. If it wasn't for Simona, we wouldn't have, unlocked that world.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we wouldn't have had this record if it wasn't for Simona and Bruno.
So thank you
It was
guys.
fantastic.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
can't
guys.
wait to see y'all.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're at the enlightening round.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna list things, and you guys are gonna tell me your first, like the first thing that pops into your head, like your first impression, based on your experiences in the Orphan Brigade.
Oh no.
Shadow on the wall. What's the first thing you think of when you see a shadow on the wall now?
Brad Talley.
I was gonna say Harriet maybe, but
Yeah.
Brad works really well.
Yeah. Octagon Hall,
Yeah,
Kentucky.
Hall.
Shadows on the wall that
Yeah.
are not coming from a figure that is in the room
Yeah.
that we can
Yeah.
see.
Or a light.
Or a light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thought maybe. A flickering candle.
I think about writing these songs. I mean, a lot of the caves were candle lit.
Yeah.
And Simona, sometimes she would go ahead and like light the cake, put candles up, and so we would just sort of enter through this world of wildness.
Nice touch.
And yeah, it was so amazing. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah. That's
And when you see that, it's easy to write a song.
Yeah, I would imagine. Very evocative.
Yeah.
A pentagram.
Pentagram Hall. It's where we're writing our third album.
Yeah.
Just have to look at it, yes.
Run away.
I have a song on I have a solo record
Yeah.
where a pentagram switchblade. There was a kid that would cut me with a pentagram switchblade when I was a kid. I hated that kid. The kid has to be in jail, or if he's watching. He was great. He was awesome.
Or not.
He was great at using the
We
switchblade.
hope he has become great.
Yeah, he was the town magician.
All right.
Who opened for my dad's band.
A bump in the night. When you hear an odd noise in the night, what do you think about?
Did my child just fall in his crib?
Yeah, did Nielsen just fall?
Actually, though, I mean, I will say that was something like I felt like there was something like when we went to that first record, and we would go in that place that was so messed up and saw a bunch of stuff in her. I always felt like, at least for a long time, I don't know if I still feel the same way, but I would feel like more empowered. I would not feel afraid when I was in the dark. I felt like facing that stuff is good. I think facing your fear in general is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it makes you, I know you don't have to be stupid about it, but,
Yeah.
I think there's something good to it.
All right. A steeple.
Right now, walking down the main street in Osimo, and there's a big church steeple at the end of it, and that was a scene that we experienced every day because we walked from our bed and breakfast towards that, and it felt like Groundhog Day. So, so steeple, kind of the Osimo steeple.
All right. Last one. A pile of bones. I don't know that you necessarily encounter them on a daily basis, but if you did come across a pile of bones,
Oh yeah.
what would you think? How would you feel?
Well, this album feels a little bit more like the first record was, like you're saying, like you facing your fear. But like I said, I'm full of fear and afraid of just about everything. And one thing that Nielsen and our team works well with is he's way more fearless than me and runs right into it.
Right.
And I'm the Robin that kind of wears the tights and and goes along.
No, that's their thing. Okay,
okay.
I'm not part of that little
Catwoman?
group they have. That's a whole different interview. But I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's Hangin' and Sangin' after dark.
yeah,
We get to
exactly.
that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's like the first record was definitely. I was just talking to a friend that we did a house show, and she says that she's a songwriter, and she's basically been like, I've been trying to write this song for a couple of years since I went to the Ottingen Hall with you, because she was laying down. She went outside and laid in the beautiful field, and we did the show, and then after the show we were like, all right, everyone, go see the house.
Mm-hmm.
We had the local ghost hunters that would hunt with you if you wanted. It was really a cool thing. Yeah. But this friend of mine is Michelle, and she went out in the field and just kind of like laid down and looked at the stars and was like, this is one of the most beautiful thing. And I walked up to her. I just saw her out there, and I walked up and I was like, oh yeah, you're laying on a slave grave. And the reality of that, there's a slave cemetery.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places ever. It's like this weird, like, circle of trees. And she was laying, I mean, there's no markers.
Right.
But there's little rocks that you can tell. And it's like, you're laying on a slave's grave. And that's the real world that we live in. And everything's built on that everywhere in the world. And I think going to Italy, they weren't so hidden. They were, the first cave we walked into, we walked by a pile of bones, of human bones. Right. And I thought, oh, animal, possum bones. I'm used to seeing that. And Simona was like, human bones.
Yeah.
And then by the end, we would go to, like pain is gone. We're riding in this beautiful place. I'm so inspired. And then you look down on the floor in the grate, and there's just bones, piles of bones. Just, I feel like we're the first generation in a long time that hasn't seen that in this part of the world specifically. It just shows how actually the world's not so bad as it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. and yet we still got a long way to go.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, Flying Joe. Somebody want to tell the little story behind Flying Joe? Second song.
So Flying Joe is based on the story of Joseph of Cupertino, who is a Catholic saint. He lived in the area where we wrote the album in Italy around the 16th century. And the guy used to be able to get into such a deeply prayer, I can't even say it, I'll say meditative state. Which is actually harder to say.
Meditative.
That he would levitate off the ground. And it sounds crazy, but there were witnesses, and the Pope and the Vatican heard about this. They summoned him to Italy to see, because at that time, it sounded like witchcraft. And at the Inquisition of sorts in the Vatican, Joe actually took off.
Yeah.
And it scared the Pope so much, he banished Joe to live the rest of his life in cells in monasteries. And he spent the last years of his life in Osimo. And his body and his bones are in a glass casket in Osimo. So when we heard this story, we went, that's a song. So we wrote this song called Flying Joe.
I love that you sang it to him as well.
That was pretty amazing. I mean, we wrote the song that morning, and that afternoon Simona took us to the church where he's buried, and we sung the song for him right there. And yeah, that's when we tell that story now. At the time, it just felt a very natural thing to do.
Right.
Let's write the song about a flying saint, and then we'll go and
sing it to his bones.
We'll serenade his bones.
As you do.
But now looking back, it wasn't your average Tuesday. So that's fine, Joe.
Yeah. All right. Let's hear it. Do you need to get your tambourine ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's a big moment for Ben Glover, you guys.
This is my debut tambourine
Yeah.
performance.
I know.
Must be my cup of water here.
And you need to get the right sheet up there.
There's no sheets there, Kelly.
These guys.
I don't know what you're talking about.
These
I don't know
guys.
what you're talking about.
All right. Flying Joe, the Orphan Brigade.
Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Jaw hang open, eyes to the stars. Barefoot feet, heaven knows what you are. Thought you was crazy, started to pray. Learned to levitate, so we threw you in a cave. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Fighting the devil with 2-foot horns, healing the sick since the day you were born. Bilocating, talking to the lamb, grab you by the ankle, change you by the hands. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Call you mad, kings and princes want what you have. The Pope's on the road to Osimo. You see the flying fool from Cupertino. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Oh, Joe, when you fly away. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Take me with you up to heaven's gate. Take me with you up to heaven's gate.
Flying Joe, the Orphan Brigade, off the new record, Heart of the Cave. It's a doozy. It's such, and a beauty, I will say, actually. It's a 1-2 punch. It takes you deep, but it doesn't get super dark. Doesn't get super heavy. It's a little bit of, Sweet Cecilia is a little bit dark. I mean, Third, it's a little bit, but it's all right. It's all very redemptive, I feel like.
I think that was our experience in Osimo.
Yeah.
Yes, there were dark shadows, but it comes back to that fire. We did feel the hope. We did feel the sense of that life-affirming thing that I think all those seekers felt.
Like you said, it's that through thread of humanity. We can't ignore it. We can't cut it.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So.
Well, I feel like on this record, what I found is that that like I grew up in the Franklin, Kentucky, and going to these old spiritual revivals and stuff. And like my great grandmother, one of my heroes, she would come into church with her cane or her walker, and then throw it down and be jumping around, And I never understood that, never did that, never had that. But I feel like in this, I want to be the person who refuses to live life without that part of life in humanity, and it's there.
Yeah.
Just the raging, like, whatever that is, that anyone can have.
Yeah.
And part of that is to, like, not judge the people with the steeple.
Right.
But also the people that went and had to go into hiding in caves to talk about truth. Yeah. That's how they were finding it, you know. Yeah. It's like everyone's looking for that, though. But that is a very human thread.
Yeah.
Right.
It's there. Well, thank you guys for being here. Pleasure.
Thank you, Kelly.
Ciao to our friends in Italia.
Yes.
Let's see. Next week we have Larkin Poe, and then let's see the rest of October's Larkin Poe, Travis Meadows, and the Lone Bellow. So that's our October. We will see you then. Check out the Orphan Brigade, Heart of the Cave. Over and out from Hillbilly